Hi, Ted. On behalf of Keynotion, please allow me to welcome you as our chair of our Smart Manufacturing Summit, San Francisco. And thanks for your support. It would be great if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Ted Schilling. I grew up in the Midwest, went to Purdue University, a great engineering school. Then I had the great fortune in my career to be able to work in a number of industries that I'll just touch on a few. I started in nuclear plant construction and startup in the early 80s, and then progressed into semiconductor manufacturing, where I spent, a bulk of my career, both on the owner side, working for companies like Texas Instruments, at that time, Hyundai Semiconductor America, which is now SK Hynix, SEH America, which is Shinitsu Hyundai, and we make the silicon wafers for the semiconductor industry and solar industry, and then was able to go into all different types, food and beverage, pharmaceutical, worked in the public and private sector, in wastewater, water treatment, marine ports, airports, just kind of have worked in a lot of different industries, which has been great to see how all those industries, number one, work, but they're also very interconnected at the end of the day, to be able to get products that are manufactured to consumers, and also the materials to manufacture to the companies that do the manufacturing. So I've had a really great career there. Worked in energy, renewable, all types of energy, fossil fuels, all the way up to solar, wind, hydro. So I've had a lot of different experiences around the energy side, the water conservation side, sustainability side. How do you run an operation? How do you optimize manufacturing operations? So I've done a lot of different things. So it's all kind of ties together to make me what I can help present to people, my background and what I see in the industry. Spent a lot of time in construction, which is an area I think is way behind the manufacturing sector, and there's a lot of potential improvement there to help build the facility so we can make things. So,
wow. And you have a wonderful 40 years of experience in the manufacturing industry. That is amazing. Would you like to share how has manufacturing evolved over those 4 decades and some outlooks to 2023?
Yeah, so I started, and particularly in like I said, in the early 80s. So things were, it was very manual. There was some automation that was starting to enter in the world of manufacturing. Robots were starting to make a scene in, say, the automotive industry, which I actually also spent time in the design of those facilities. And then as time went on, you started to see more of the automation gradually coming in, lots of robotics, and so almost for a different reason. And what the reasons I'd say throughout the years have been more we need to be more efficient, improve our production, improve our yield in the manufacturing space. And just to be able to compete internationally. So I think that's been one of the biggest things. And now today, as we see, that it's kind of a different. I started seeing this in the food and beverage industry about 10 years ago, where they went heavily automated, maybe quicker than some of the others, because they just couldn't find people to do the work. So they went to, instead of like replacing employees, which was an early part of automation, was, hey, we can put robots in and we displace workers, but we get products that are under more control, you can do them faster. Now it's to replace. We can't find people to do the work, and this is every industry struggling. I don't care what you're in right now, you cannot find qualified people, the numbers you need, the ones that'll stick around and stay with you. So, we've gone to this very heavily automated world now, that you can also bring in, the artificial intelligence, machine language. I actually was fortunate enough to be involved with artificial intelligence in 1987. at Texas Instruments, and we were trying to do some automated designs of repetitive designs, but the computer technology wasn't really caught up. So I got to see some of that. Of course, now as the computing and software technologies have caught up, of course, it's in everything. Very, very little people don't realize that AI is in their homes. It's in everything that they touch anymore and do it. Systems learn patterns and adjust in a very simple way. But now you're getting to where some of the amazing things you can see. The robotics can self-diagnose themselves. They can repair themselves, take themselves offline before the repair, bring themselves back online. And that's where the robotics and automation is moved to. So you don't even have to have that maintenance crew to do the work. They work on themselves and fix themselves to a certain degree. So I was in an automotive plant about 2 years ago where this was already happening.
Wow.
The robots were literally repairing themselves. And so that kind of helps this whole thing of, we need more people for whatever reason. We're just not finding them. And I don't know any industry that's not been impacted. So a lot of this automation is now going to, hey, we got to replace the people we can't find, or in some cases, make the people we have more productive. And that's kind of what I talk about the construction industry and even in manufacturing, things like, I don't know if you've seen, they're exoskeletons that you put on that make a person stronger. It initially started as a safe environmental health or more of a safety, occupational safety thing. That hey, we're going to have these exoskeletons that have, equipment built in like servo machines, servo motors, hydraulics that helps people lift. And it's moving into construction slower than I had expected, where you can, now people can do what 2 or 3 people could do lifting wise, and even people with disabilities can now play in the construction industry because they can be put in these suits and they can go lift and move and weld and do all these things, even though their bodies may not be fully capable. So those are some of the things I'm seeing right now that are certainly, as we move into the higher end manufacturing, and then I mean, I always say, well, you got to think of how we're going to get the plant built, because that's nothing happens until the plant's built. Mm-hmm. So you have to deal with the construction side. It's got to be a lot more efficient than it has been. So, mm-hmm. Those are some of the things that I see. That's what's pretty exciting about this is how do you look at where we're at now, and then of course, there's a whole world of the Web 3.0 that's coming that companies need to figure out how am I going to play in that. That's a virtual world, right? And I've already kind of thought about some amazing things that could happen with companies working in that world, and being able to duplicate people's efforts with the technologies are there. If we can capture people's, this is a ways down the road. Can we capture people's experiences and knowledge and put it into some kind of a machine that then if this comes up, you don't have to wait on this particular person. This knowledge is being captured somewhere and can be applied across multiple platforms. You're kind of taking one person's knowledge and storing it somewhere so that a machine or even a person can use some of this technology to help solve problems. Because I'm kind of the older part of the generation, right? I'm still working, plan on working for a while. A lot of people have retired out. You lost a lot of knowledge that's not been captured. And that's another problem we have today in the manufacturing and construction world, particularly as you've lost a lot of talent in the last 10 years that's not been replaced. So things are slower because of that, take longer. So those are some of the things I think the technology can help replace some of that.
Yep. So you were talking about technology, and thank you so much for such in-depth analysis of how things have changed for 4 decades. And my next question is also something related to technology. The event is quite focused on digitization, industry 4.0, all these keywords for smart manufacturing. But I would like to find out more on your view with rising technologies above Industry 4.0 that's becoming a trend in smart manufacturing, like 5G. And of course, with companies nowadays, with the government and authorities coming on to sustainability, the ESG is playing a huge role in smart manufacturing. I would like to share more about it, your view.
Yeah, those are great. I mean, 5G's kind of hits I mean, we're obviously, I thought we'd be further along in that in the US than other countries are in my mind, way more advanced. They're just how 5G is being implemented, the capabilities that you have in other countries, the download speeds, all that stuff. We're not seeing it here yet. It's kind of a 5G light. So I think there's and there's some reasons for that. I think people are still a little, it's not just people, but some entities are concerned about, hey, this interferes with, we've heard about interferes with, the flight, the FAA, the equipment on airplanes, other equipment that is around it. I don't know, other countries don't seem to be having these problems. We do. So I don't know what that is, but we got to get caught up, because it's night and day difference in other countries of how their 5G works. And I think, certainly the whole, I call it the IoT, right? That I was a controls engineer for years. So I lived in this automation design. So I was really excited when that came out, but I also saw some of the risks of, keeping those systems secure. There have been situations where plants, wastewater plants, for example, have been hacked into, taking control of. Operators are sitting there watching their plant, like, what is happening here? Something we're not changing these valve positions and things like that. So those are some of the risks that I think still have to be worked out. But the ability to put a device or even an IP address in pretty much anything from a controls. I remember I used to have to string wire. There was no wireless. There was none of this stuff. It was very, very limited to how far. You had limits on how long you could run the wires because of signal loss. So now when it's all wireless, you can just stick a device on anything, get a measurement. That's where you get this really over, this big data influx information. And it's like, well, now how do we deal with all this information? This is a real, information is great, but there's so much of it. And how do I capture it, analyze it, present it so it's useful to all kinds of different people at different levels in a company? And that's some of every company's fighting that, that challenge right now. And I think that's a big part of the Industry 4.0 is, now we're on the other extreme. We got so much data flowing into our sites, our ability to pick up because of these advances. What do we do with it? How to make it useful? How do you not get overloaded by it? And that's where you're starting to see, and this is where, the data analytics and also the smart, this is where AI and machine language and these other things can play into taking this information and going through it and presenting it in a way that can be used. Information is great, but you can also right now we're getting inundated by it. Before we couldn't find enough of it. So I think those are that, and I know there's the virtual reality and augmented reality and all those things that are out there. That's not new stuff. Been around for well over 15 years myself, where it first came out in more the virtual reality, where we could, design a process or a facility or whatever, and have people, walk through it. The people are going to use it and see how what would they change? Hey, I don't like this piece of equipment here because of this, but they figured out before they built it and designed it, which is a huge efficiency and cost savings and schedule impact, reduction. And then you kind of do, okay, with existing facilities, now you got to put the augmented. You got the existing facility, now you want to augment it. You put augmented reality into the mix, so you can say, okay, well, hey, this is existing facility. I want to do this change, but I want to see what it's going to be like. How is the operator going to interface with it? Is it going to be the right? Is everything going to be at the most efficient location? So those things are all just technologies. I think they're going to be just advanced. They're not new by any means, but they are going to be advanced in this world of the in Industry 4.0. And I think everybody's struggling. It's no secret, the supply chain issue. How do you manage that? We got obviously during COVID, we got our eyes opened on, what globalization has done and the weaknesses that can provide. And so now there's, hey, we want to build everything back in our countries, which kind of takes us back in time. But, for survival, there's just a lot of, you need control over that. So I think that's a lot of that's a key thing in the whole manufacturing right now and construction is supply chain management. Just getting materials and getting the labor to do the work these are big challenges. And it's like, we can't get people to do it. We got to figure out a way to automate it. So, and that's where, I think like the Web 3.0 is going to jump us to this avatar based. How's that going to work? How am I going to be an avatar in a manufacturing facility? What does that mean? And or in a design center, what does that mean? And that, we're in the infancy of it, but there's companies that are right now working diligently to figure that out. So I think those things are going to be the exciting things. I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm looking forward to coming to the conferences. Who's working in that space and who's thinking about 3.0, Web 3.0, and how that's going to impact manufacturing. What are they doing? I have some connections with companies that are really looking at the infrastructure of how do we even build a Web 3.0 infrastructure. It's gonna make everything we know now about data centers and crypto mines and all those things look like very small in size. And then you mentioned the sustainability part. Sustainability is not new. We used to call it, quarterly cost reduction strategies back in the day. But you started seeing, okay, if I go reduce chemicals, water use, my emissions, you impact your wastewater, for example. You get you reduce that. Your water usage. You don't have to treat things you don't make. So I think that's just going to be a big part of this. Obviously very controversial, right? Because there's a lot of what they call the greenwashing. Okay, I can make it look like we're doing good things, but are we really making an impact in our sustainability? Because this is real life stuff. I mean, there's only so much water, so much air, so much the energy consumption that we're seeing in some of these facilities is just incredibly high. And how do you reduce that? I mean, that's every business needs to be looking at that. And I think that, the pressure that's coming from the ESG, from, the investor side is making a difference. It's, I think in some cases, like, there are people that are maybe not doing it as truly as we'd want. And that's just, part of vetting out those technologies. But it's not a new thing either. I've been fortunate enough to be in all that over the years, but it's always just been good business practice. Reduce your costs. You're going to reduce environmental impact. You're going to reduce the social impact on whether your products or your facilities have on the surrounding community. Those kind of things are. I mean, there's a lot to take in just to that topic. And I think that's where Web 3.0 is going to have a big difference, because it's going to be, this stuff's going to be worked on another platform that we don't really understand. And so we'll be able to maybe improve some of those things. But those computing platforms are all, with the current technology, pretty energy intensive. I mean, that's a big complaint. And we got to get away from some of the ways we cool things, the way we it's just not efficient anymore given the energy footprint. So there's a lot of work. That could be a whole topic in itself. Is the ESG part. And every company's got to, they got to put together a plan, if they haven't already, to just start attacking some of those things, because we're limited resources and we're starting to run into restrictions, whether they're produced by natural consumption or political events, like we've seen with the war in the Ukraine, how some things are so impacted we had no idea. Mm-hmm. That what was these things are being made over there in those regions, and all of a sudden now they're in a massive war and things are getting destroyed. And where does that alternative resource, so whether it's a material or some other thing, where's that coming
manufacturing
from?
Especially
right.
Food manufacturing, with Ukraine and Russia being the two biggest food exporter. with grains and everything.
Yeah, fertilizer.
Mhm.
I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, and I talked. It's hitting every farm hard right now because the cost of fertilizer is through the roof because of that.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, those things are all just what, you have to deal with, but but I think there's, that those are things hopefully we can analyze at a higher level and be prepared for better. Obviously the Ukraine thing is something that's to a certain degree out of our control. We can't do much. We got to just find alternative sources and of things. But it's been shocking to some of the things that come out of there that you just don't think about, that it touch everyday manufacturing. So
thank you so much. And of course, as our chair of the event, what do you really look forward to the as in terms of desired takeaway?
Oh gosh, I love these types of conferences because one, I like people. I like to meet people. Through that, you find, you develop and increase your networks of knowledge of, where you can go look for answers. Obviously, we're gonna see a lot of innovation, both for, I'd say, the next 5 years, but also what's the next 10 years look like. This is kind of the prediction of, hey, maybe that's the entry point of Web 3.0 is a 10-year window. What's that going to look like? But for now, we got to get there. So what are people doing to result, and I think that, sharing this information across these forums is critical to the entire manufacturing world. I mean, it's been so, we were cut off from a lot of this during COVID. Just conferences weren't being held, or they were being held like on Zoom or something like that. But it's nothing like being at a conference, meeting people, talking to people at breaks or at a happy hour or something where you can really get into it, make those connections for future, for your own future needs. So I always love that about any conference, this one in particular with the focus. And it's been a while since I've been to a conference. I have been myself, and I think others are now just starting to re-engage. So kind of getting back to that trend of, going to these conferences, meeting people, learning new things, taking it back to your company, implementing some of the ideas. I mean, I think that's the thing I always look forward to at these, in particular this one. I look forward to that coming out of this. And then, having, I always tell people, go to these with a mission. Just don't go to attend. Go and, hey, I'm going to, at the end of it, we're going to have a lot of information. I need to, take some time and develop, okay, this information, what's that? What kind of plan? What can I take back to the company? What can I take for, what can I do this year from what I've learned? What can I do in the next 3 years, past 5 years, who knows, but just thinking about taking the takeaways from this conference, and not, just don't attend a conference, have a plan, coming forward to, try to see who's there, try to engage with people up front before you go to the conference if you can, to set up meeting times and dinners and things like that, so you can be more proactive than just showing up at a conference and then your company, or you're paying for it, so that you get more out of it, and then have a plan from the information that you learned. What are you going to do with it when you go back? You're going to present what you learned to your staff or to your management, and what you learn, so they feel like they've got some investment return, and then just having a plan to, okay, it won't be perfect, but have something, walk away with something. So that's what I see, that's what I'm looking forward to, and kind of the takeaways that I want to take back to my company. So
thank you so much. And we look forward to hosting you. And ladies and gentlemen, to directly engage with our chair, Ted, do join us on 12th to 14th of October in San Francisco. Details will be shared in all our descriptions. Please register to catch your early bird offers now. Thank you. And I wish you a great day.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, thanks so much, Ariana, for the opportunity.
Thank you for supporting us as our chair. It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to help.
Okay.